Alright everyone, Tuppence Tuesday. So we've been going through with this series, haven't we? We've been looking at really what does it take to become and establish a data culture within our organisations. First off, we've gone through like the people side of it, the process side of it, and then last week we looked at the technology side. What I wanted to do today was actually let's just expand out some of this data so we've got kind of some idea of what we're meaning in real terms. You know, what does it actually start to look like? We're going to be putting it into the technology, and the technology is going to be Power BI. But I think it's important that we have a look and see and understand what that means for us. So, you know, we can work out how that fits. So in today's example, what I was thinking we should look at is kind of an ITSM, so a ticketing system. It's a good one. You know, we've done a lot with this in the past. It's a good little data set for it. So what we can see with this is that we've got some fairly simple data. We've got like a ticket ID, a status, actually what's going on, and there's some classification information, some people information, and a date that it was resolved, closed, all that kind of information. So it's kind of rough, sort of thing that you start with from any system. Nothing fancy though. Right, and overall, they go in this kind of a format, that it's going to be a contact, diagnosis, resolve and close. And I can see that being the sort of style that I might be coming into from this is our process. You know, our process is that we contact the customer contacts us, and you might say, well, how do they contact you? Is it by phone? Is it by email? Is it on Teams? Is it, you know, by smoke signals? What? You then diagnose. Well, what does diagnose mean? Right, and these are things that we'd want to be exploring and understand what's going on. And that's where we start to get into the gap, isn't it, between analysis and the reality of work. And it doesn't matter what you're doing this with. This is where you start to see that your process document doesn't describe everything that's going on. And half the battle that you really have in terms of an improvement life cycle or an improvement cycle is understanding that discrepancy. So we've got that idea though, haven't we? We've got this nice 4-step roughly process. What next we do is we actually have to build that whole ETL, extract, transform and load cycle into it. So we've got the extract, so we can extract that from the source system, and for this it's coming out as a CSV file. And then we're going to do a transform. So we're actually going to transform that data into something. We're also, and I've called this out separately because there's a few things that you do. Obviously, you're going to add dimensions to it. So for you might have multiple tables of data. You might already have those. You might spin them out like we've done with this based on that extract that you've got because you need to do it. And that's quite a common thing, really, especially when you're looking at CSV imports. Even some of the SQL extracts that I've seen, that you tend to, it emulates a big flat file. And then what you need to do is effectively add layers to it, make it layerify it. Right. Okay, and you convert what is flat data into a dimension, normalizing that. We're also always going to add in a calendar, and a calendar is one of those areas. It's called out separately, but you want to have a standardized calendar. And we've talked enough about our standard calendar that we've built in Power BI, and this is the sort of time when we would like to use it. And then lastly, once you've got everything kind of in the structure and the shape that you want, you're going to load all that through, right? So from a Power BI perspective, that's when you would execute that script. So up until the point, we're just kind of doing that schema build, and then we're going to load all that through into our reporting analytical suite. Okay, which we do with a close and apply, or we run a refresh all. The result of this, though, is interesting. So it gives us this mindset or this ability to do this investigate, hypothesize, validate, and execute, because we want to be able to improve our business. It's not just about being able to say, you know, we're hitting 68%. Is 68% good? Is it bad? Do we want it to be improving? Is it something that, what are the drivers for it? And that should be how we're looking at everything. So it might be a sales dashboard. We've been selling this amount. It might be a ticketing system where, you know, we're achieving this amount. There's a lot of things that you're going to find, and your role is to be able to focus on that and make intelligent business decisions based on the information that you're receiving. So we can see here we've got a lot of data on the pages. So what I wanted to do at this point is cut on over into Internet Explorer, in Edge. We'll have a look and see what the Power BI report actually looks like. Alright, so here we are, looking at this data in the service. And there's a lot of power that we get brought into our hands. And this is in the hands of any consumer. You know, we're looking at this potentially as anybody could look at this report data. And this is one of the changes that you see with the modern analytical solutions. So be it Power BI that we're looking in now, be it a Tableau, be it a Click. The concept that the consumption layer is not static is the change. That's the difference, isn't it? Previous systems and previously you might send out a PDF, you might send out a PowerPoint, you might send out even an image. Suddenly though, this is interactive data. Now one of the things I like to look at with this is these two here. Okay, so these two here are dealing with, what, between them about 5,000, just shy of 5,000 of our 20,000 total ticket volume. So, you know, that's nearly 25% is going through these two people. But there's a big difference between what these two people are doing in terms of the on-time percentage, the SLA performance. So the question that I would ask is, well, why? What's happening? Is this good? Is it bad? And we can look and we can see the rest and say, okay, yeah, everyone else is kind of roughly okay. But, you know, if we look at, say, well, let's look at Clive here. He's only hitting 50%, but his ticket volume is 305. There's not going to be big shakes if we can manage to get the rest of them up in terms of the 20,000 ticket volume. Whereas for Sarah, she's hitting 63%. And for Anthony, he's hitting 88%. Now, what I would like to know is, well, why? What's changed? What are they doing that would make it that different? And this is where the process mining side comes through. And this is why we're talking about we need to look at process mining and be aware that process mining is available to us. So if I was to click on Anthony, it'll show me a sample of kind of what he's doing. And this is the most common routing, effectively, that tickets are going with Anthony. And you can see all the other visuals on the page have filtered accordingly to show us kind of Anthony's workload, Anthony's life, as it were. So everything according to Anthony. What it gives is a very interesting picture, because we can see there's a very clear route, isn't there? If we look at this point here, his tickets are going very much from creation to resolved. So the whole diagnosis step seems to be missing, doesn't it? Okay, so what happens if we look at Sarah? If we click on Sarah again, but what we can all see is there's a difference. So it would warrant that next level down, that deeper dive. And this is then where you're starting to use your data to intelligently drive you to go to that next level. So if we were to right click on Sarah, we can drill through to her page and actually see exactly what's going on. We can see her top customers, when she's dealing with things, actually what's going on with her ticketing, so we can really understand what is happening and where. And it's a very telling difference, because if you remember this, and if we go back and we do the same with Anthony, you can see there is a real difference. It's much more streamlined for Anthony. So something is definitely happening. But what we need to start to think through is that this is now leading the investigation. And this is more what it talks about, to be data driven. So I may be the manager of both Anthony and Sarah, and I may say, well, these are our first line of support. This is our first line support team. They deal with the phone calls. Yeah, really busy. Hello, hello, right? But, you know, they deal with the phone calls. They they're processing, they're triaging, they're just, hammering through the calls, which is why we see them dealing with most. That's not unusual. The unusual piece comes from there being such a wide discrepancy between their performance rate. So 88 and 63 is huge, that difference. So it would warrant digging into the whys of that. So is it the classification of the tickets? Is something else happening? But do you see that I'm not at the point of saying, or I think Sarah's a good employee and Anthony's a bad employee, or vice versa. I'm at the point of saying, I need more data to understand. And it'd be very easy for me as a manager to say, well, I can see Anthony there has got 88%. He must be the great one. And Sarah's the one who, frankly, we need to educate. She can't be doing her job very well. So be aware, because is that what the data is telling me? And my view here, from what I have so far, is it's not telling me that at all. If I look at this, I can't see enough of a significant difference between these two to be at the point of saying they are categorically doing a different way of working. I can see from the process mining data that appears here, right, that there is a difference between the two of them in the way that they are, in how they are going about their task. But what that difference is and how that's impacted them and exactly what's going on is something that we need to do more work on. The data is here, but what you will find in a good data culture is that you do more. So because this information is available and we can make it available to all, we could sit down with Anthony and with Sarah in their next one-to-one. I wouldn't say get them in the room together, but sit down, talk through, understand what's happening. And it's a different conversation to, Sarah, you're not doing your job well. Because I don't know. Sarah might be doing her job way better than Anthony. They might both be doing a brilliant job, and Anthony is just dealing with the quick and easy stuff so that Sarah can focus on the things that just need that little bit more. And that might work really well for them. But for me, as the business lead, I need to understand that, and I need to be able to articulate what's happening. And just looking at figures, just looking at one or the other, isn't going to get me there. So what do you reckon then? Okay? It's a really tough topic to start to think through what actually is going on, or what does it mean when people's performance, or when a core metric shows lower for a particular person or a particular group or for a particular classification or a product. And the question, or it's very easy to then say, well, they're doing something wrong, or there's an issue. But a data-driven approach is, well, what does the data tell me about that? Okay, in Power BI, you have some things you can do. You can ask the application, explain the difference, tell me what's going on. And if you've got a wide enough data set, you might well find that it comes back and says, oh, what's happening is this issue, or this occurs more or less here. So what we would probably need to do is to look and split out the classifications, what was actually happening for these two people. But it really highlights that you've got differences. Now, I could do the same with the classifications, but it really isn't going to do it justice, because again, it's just classification 1, classification 2. So that's where it gets tricky doing this kind of demo there. You're going, I don't know. But what we could see is, or what we might find if we went in and did that, was that, say, Anthony was actually running on a password reset line. That was one of the things he was doing, and people were actually just having a password reset with him, which is easy. But that might work better than having both him and Sarah doing it. And there's lots of factors that you need to take into account. Is what I'm trying to get you to understand. Okay, all too often I've seen, well, the KPI says this, that's it, that's right. KPIs in isolation are very rarely right. KPIs are something that we need to go through and be aware of. But that idea of a data culture comes from being able to look at data, see that it's suggesting something, or have the data start to steer the conversation. So I think for this would be a case where we would want to sit down with Anthony and with Sarah, and have that conversation, that discussion. It might be a case that we want to say, hey, can you shadow Sarah? Oh, hey, can you shadow Anthony? And get somebody to shadow the two of them just to see what's going on. And, if you're not sure, but what you want to be doing is actually getting that data as to what is happening. But what we're getting at is data is key for this. And that data is key mindset is what you need to be encouraging and fostering in your business. Because it's too easy to come in and say, I know this is what's happening, right? Just like I've said at the beginning, I suspect it's one of these two scenarios, okay? But I would like to be able to prove that with the data. I'm not just going to go and say, we would go in, we would use the data to come to definitively this is what it is. I may have suspicions about the data, but I need to prove. And that's the key, isn't it? So I hope you'll come back next week. We're going to carry on. We'll do some more with this about the data culture. We'll go back into this data set. What I might do is share, I'll put this on the our site. It'll be under the paid area, but yeah, it'll be available to download. And see you on Friday, or of course next week. Take care of yourselves. Ta-da.